Operation Ironclad Vigilance, Doom of Thanatos series, written by Cosmic Drew, made in support of the Morty and Glory channel and community. Inquisitorial Report, Case File Number Redacted. Ordo Hereticus / Subordo Thanatos. Operation Ironclad Vigilance Assets. Assigned, Lord Inquisitor Dovidas Vensk. Captain Lord Commissar Philomore Graves. Lieutenant Jacques Jagger of the 949th Unforgiven Assault Regiment of the Death Corps of Krieg. Detachment of Thanatos Honor Guard. Detachment of Thanatos Planetary Enforcers. Detachment of 949th Unforgiven Krieg Assault Regiment, Light Mechanized Engineering Death Riders. Team of Aerial Rapid Response Inquisitorial Shock Troopers. Location, Hive City Primus Mortis. Operation details, Inquisitor and the listed agents of the Astra Militarum were assigned to provide additional security detail for Governor Constantine's convoy. The objective was to keep the governor alive while showcasing the might of the Astra Militarum, thereby deterring any potential enemy attacks. Intelligence gathered through Operation Woodcutter revealed that two groups were preparing for an attempted attack on the planetary governor. To maintain secrecy, the arrival of the 949th Unforgiven Assault Regiment was disguised as a rest and rearmament period before their deployment to a new war zone. The public was informed that the Astra Militarum forces would be featured in a parade and would stay on the governor's grounds as honored guests and heroes of the Imperium. As part of the operation, a detachment from the 949th Unforgiven Assault Regiment was assigned as guests of honor alongside the governor. The listed agents, including Lieutenant Jacques Jagger, were tasked with escorting the governor and fortifying the governor's compound. The primary objective was to ensure the safety of Governor Constantine, while demonstrating the formidable force of the Astra Militarum. This show of strength was intended to discourage any potential attackers from carrying out their plans. Inquisitorial Case Officer, Lord Inquisitor Dovidas Vensk. Operation Ironclad Vigilance, Lieutenant Jacques Jagger's prospective date. Insert date. Location, Hive City. Primus Mortis, Planet Thanatos. From the desk of Lieutenant Jacques Jagger, 949th Unforgiven Assault Regiment, Death Corps of Krieg. Upon landing on this planet, I realized that we were thrust into another urgent assignment without much information. Such sudden deployments are not unfamiliar to me, as I have spent my entire life in the Death Corps, striving to earn forgiveness for myself and the Emperor on the Golden Throne. I consider myself fortunate to have survived this long, but I know that my time will come soon. As we entered the system, we were informed that this would be a temporary stop for rearming while awaiting new orders. However, it soon became clear that our mission was different. I serve as a lieutenant in the Guard, as well as the Commissar's aide. The Inquisitor, the Commissar, and I met to discuss our assignment. It turned out that the three of us, along with the team, would be assigned to protect and meet with the Lord Governor. While I am not accustomed to such tasks, I understand that if the Emperor wills it, I must follow without complaint. In the Governor's luxury car, the Inquisitor, the Commissar, and I sit alongside him and his aides. He is a large, sweaty man, pompous and known for allowing insurrectionist groups to disrupt the planet's infrastructure. Our presence here is to ensure his protection and his loyalty to the Emperor's light. The security personnel assigned to him have fancy equipment that is well maintained, but they lack the experience of real warfare. They have only ever been on this planet and would likely perish quickly in a true battle. Next to me sits Captain Lord Commissar Philomore Graves. I first encountered him when I was in the Grenadiers. I was the last surviving member of my squad, and when he looked at me, he said, "I should not be alive." The next day, he requested that I become his replacement for his former aide, who was killed in action. I've learned a great deal from him. We have fought together in the Emperor's name for longer than I ever expected to live. I hold him in high regard, and he tells me that my sacrifice is not merely to die in the Emperor's service, but to rise in the ranks. He believes I am different from most Kriegers, claiming that I possess the ability to think and and grasp larger concepts. While I'm not entirely sure what he means, I know my duty. Across from me sits Lord Inquisitor Dovidus Vensk, a bombastic fellow who is in charge of our regiment, composed of other damaged and scattered Krieg regiments that could not be reinforced. Hence, we bear the name Unforgiven as we continue to fight, searching for atonement. I remain patient, silent, and observant, as the Commissar has instructed me to be. He has a sense of foreboding about our presence on this planet ever since we landed. I trust his instincts and stand ready for whatever may come. Lord Inquisitor Vensk spoke with a blunt tone, addressing Governor Constantine directly. I will be straightforward, Lord Governor. We came in response to requests, only to find the situation on Thanatos worse than any estimation could have predicted. Governor Constantine nervously sweated and responded. Thanatos has always been a loyal planet to the Imperium. We have consistently fulfilled our tithes. The Inquisitor replied, pressing his hands firmly on his force axe. The issue of what the Emperor is owed from this world is not our primary concern. Rather, the strategic value of its location and the rampant heresy among the populace have grown beyond concerning proportions. The governor attempted to defend his family's long-standing governorship, saying, "The governorship of Thanatos has been in my family for generations. We have received accolades from the High Lords for our constant productivity." Inquisitor Vensk stared down the governor and stated firmly, "Heresy, mutation, and traitors run rampant through this planet, and they have grown bold. Governor, you are a suspect, and from this point forward, you are under the custody of the Ordo Thanatos Operational Inquisitorial Team and its assets. My associate, Captain Lord Commissar Philomore Graves, will closely watch over you, along with the majority of the military assets of the planet." The governor shifted uncomfortably in his seat, knowing that objecting would only aggravate the Inquisitor and expedite his judgment. Inquisitor Vensk granted permission to Commissar Graves to speak. Commissar Graves spoke concisely. "Infectious mutations have been found among multiple members of the PDF enforcers and the local population. Additionally, armed militant cults of heretics have been sighted. All of them are armed, dangerous, and now targeting you, thanks to our recent operation." Staring down the governor behind his brass battle mask, his voice distorted by the Vox emitter, Commissar Graves continued, "The simple fact is, if the enemy desires your death to this extent, you still hold usefulness to us. As long as you remain useful, there is a chance for your redemption and to continue governing this planet. From this point onward, my regiment will act under your authority across this planet, controlling this hive. You will still hold figurative command of your PDF, but make no mistake, the Inquisition has its eye on you, and so do I. You wouldn't be the first Lord Governor that I executed." The governor, nearly paralyzed by the weight of this news, continued to sweat profusely, resembling a grox being chased, and he nodded in acknowledgement. The vehicle came to a sudden stop, and the governor urgently called into his Vox emitter, demanding an update on the situation from the captain. The Vox echo returned. "Vehicle broken down up ahead. I'm sending 2 men to check it out and clear the road. We'll be moving shortly." The Commissar, Inquisitor, and I all felt a growing unease about the situation. The detachment following us fell further behind in the confusion, but was en route. The Commissar tapped into the Vox feed of the Honor Guard troopers, and we started hearing a heated discussion followed by shouting. Suddenly, several concussive blasts reverberated around us, tearing apart the lead enforcement vehicle and the one directly behind us. By the Emperor, it felt like a concentrated artillery barrage raining down upon us. The next blast hit our car, flipping it off the road. In that brief moment of shock, I realized we were upside down but miraculously unharmed. I could feel the icy chill of fear running down my back. It was then that I noticed the Inquisitor's eyes glowing as he projected a psychic shield around us. Amidst the chaos, I could hear the governor's panicked voice. "Is everyone still alive?" Inquisitor Vensk asked. The Commissar and I both confirmed our status. The governor, still in shock, pleaded, "By the Golden Throne, what is happening? What is going on?" It appears our intel was correct. I I didn't anticipate them being this audacious, taking a shot at the governor with an Astra Militarum column nearby, Commissar Graves said, freeing himself from the restraint belt. His combat bionics emitted a distinctive sound as he regained his mobility. I used my blade to cut myself free. Together with the Commissar, we assisted the governor and the Inquisitor. Gunshots and explosions filled the air, and the enemy revealed themselves to be well organized, wreaking havoc on the honor guard. Vox chatter on my comb bead indicated that they had targeted multiple parts of the convoy, causing confusion and disorientation. The ambush even impressed the Inquisitor, but we all knew we had to act swiftly. This vehicle was an easy target, and a single crack round could reduce it to shreds. The Inquisitor spoke up again, his voice commanding, "Lieutenant, take the governor and get him to cover. I will maintain the psychic barrier to protect the two of you. Commissar Graves, I need you to engage the enemy, drive them back, and give us a chance to bring reinforcements." Commissar Graves and I had served together for a long time. We knew the routine. We exchanged a quick nod, steeling ourselves for the upcoming battle. I felt the icy chill of the Inquisitor's powers being summoned once again as he counted down with his hand and blasted the door away. The Inquisitor went out first, his barrier protecting us from the initial volley of incoming fire. Autogun rounds pelted against the shield, and an explosion from a grenade reverberated through the air. The Inquisitor's power was formidable, but we knew his barrier wouldn't hold for long. Commissar Graves rushed out next, his bionics roaring to life as he charged into battle. His twin-linked bolter barked and snarled, matching the fierce determination on his face. The enemy fire started to waver under his relentless assault. Meanwhile, I grabbed hold of the governor's collar and dragged him out of the vehicle. As soon as he was clear, I moved him behind a barricade and readied my plasma pistol. The hand-sized stun gun hummed to life as its chamber began to glow with a blue hue. Amidst the snaps and pings of enemy rounds hitting our cover, I fired back, searing holes in the light cover behind which the enemy sought shelter. The momentary pause in the enemy onslaught allowed me to assess the surroundings. The honor guard, once numerous, now stood scattered, panicked, and broken. Less than a squad remained, valiantly fighting for their lives. The Inquisitor, with his barrier still intact, cast it aside and reached for the side of his armor, retrieving his combi weapon. The gun barked out bolter rounds, obliterating any armored target in its path. When a more heavily armored adversary appeared, the Inquisitor unleashed a scorching beam of melta, reducing the target to molten slag. The governor, now hyperventilating in a state of panic, responded to me as I pushed him down and instructed him to stay where he was. I noticed him fumbling in his jacket for an ancient last lock, trying to free it. Pushed his hands away and told him to keep them over his head, explaining that I didn't want him shooting and potentially hitting one of us or our allies. I took a couple more shots, scoring a direct hit on an enemy trooper, melting his body armor with the searing plasma blast. The Inquisitor signaled for me to join him, and I swiftly grabbed hold of the governor, rushing him towards a new position in a nearby alleyway. "Governor, I'm attempting to guide in a Valkyrie with Inquisitorial shock troopers. Once it arrives, we will lift you on board and get you out of here. Lieutenant, a second wave of enemy fighters is approaching from the other side of the street. Rally with the honor guard and assist Commissar Graves in holding them off." "I will cover the governor," the Inquisitor ordered, his voice filled with authority and determination. Amidst the chaos of battle, I moved through the battlefield, watching as the Thanatos enforcers, lacking combat experience, did their best to hold their position. The air was thick with smoke and debris, and the constant ping of autogun fire filled the air. These TLA troopers were just as heavily armed and motivated as our briefing had warned. Motorbikes revved, and a couple of them tried to run me down. Reacting quickly, I fired another volley of plasma pistol shots, incinerating anything they touched. As one biker drew close, I swung my power sword, severing the rider's head clean off. In the distance, I heard the distinctive bark of Graves' twin bolt gun. I waved my sword in the air, knowing that it could serve as a rallying signal for those with low morale. Some of the remaining enforcers noticed and joined me, and together, we pushed back against the heretical horde. The heretics, although lacking skill and discipline, compensated with sheer volume of fire. I kept moving from cover to cover, turning stun gun blast as I went. Soon I heard the sounds of chainswords and clashing metal. As I approached, ready to jump into the fray, I saw a figure amidst the smoke. He wore a black greatcoat and his sleeves were torn, revealing metal arms. In one hand, he held a traitor by the neck, and in the other, he blocked the chainsword of his assailant. Behind his red eyes, I could see the rage that fueled the commissar. With a powerful push, he forced the man's hand to drop the weapon. Bodies lay around him, remnants of the TLA troopers who had dared to take him down. None had succeeded. I saw that they had managed to knock his falchion away, but one trooper paid for it with his life, impaled on the blade sticking out through his chest. The fire spread, casting a glow on the fierce death mask worn by the commissar. He spoke to the heretic he held up, his glare enough to intimidate even the bravest soul. "Beg the Holy Emperor for forgiveness, for I have none to give," he snarled. In an instant, his bionics whirred to life, and the heretic's neck snapped. The commissar tossed the lifeless body aside like trash in the wind, moving on to face the next threat. As the battle raged on, I retrieved the commissar's weapons and handed them to him. Graves efficiently reloaded and prepared for the next wave of enemies. His imposing figure, masked and dressed in his black uniform and peaked cap, inspired and motivated the troopers fighting alongside us. They rallied around him, ready to face the heretics with renewed determination. "The Inquisitor needs us to clear an LZ for a Valkyrie gunship to extract the governor," I informed Graves as I vented the heat from my plasma gun and reloaded it. "We'll have to handle it ourselves for now. The rest of the regiment is tied up in other assaults. This attack was well coordinated, catching even the Inquisition by surprise. A unit of Death Riders and engineers are on their way, but it'll take some time," Graves reported. As we spoke, a large industrial truck mounted with heavy guns and a massive plow emerged from the side, pushing an armored transport vehicle into our path. A second wave of troopers charged toward our position. We knew that we needed to take out the gun truck before it caused more damage. Graves raised his power sword, activating its field, and called out to the remaining enforcers, rallying them to join the fight. With newfound determination, they charged forward, ready to fight for the Emperor. We had done this before. Graves drew the enemy's attention while I flanked them and completed the objective. The objective now was to destroy that gun truck. As the TLA troopers jumped out of the truck, engaging Graves and the enforcers, I crawled behind the barricades, making my way to the side of the target. Spotting a cache of demo charges in the back, I made a dash for it while Graves kept the enemy's heads down with his bolt gun. Reaching the truck, I managed to take down the gunner with a shot from my plasma gun, but more troopers noticed my presence. I engaged in close combat with the troopers in the truck, using my power sword to dispatch them. As I fought, I noticed a few troopers on the ground firing at me. Thinking quickly, I grabbed 2 demolition charges, ripping the cords, and tossed them at the troopers. With a resounding boom, it created chaos among the TLA forces. Then tossing the last demo charge into the pile, I attempt to jump out the truck. The last TLA gunner, seeing me trying to flee, snap off a few shots with his sidearm, and managed to escape the blast, albeit with my plasma pistol taking a round to the fusion chamber. Commissar Graves called back the troopers, waving his sword and cutting down TLA troopers with his bolt gun. The heretics, thinking they had driven us back, cheered in arrogance. Then, a magnificent sound filled the air. Detonation of a cache of demo charges. The truck was sent soaring into the air, reaching the upper floors of a nearby building. The sight reminded me of watching a Medusa cannon team raining pinpoint death upon an enemy tank. It was beautiful. I couldn't help but praise the Emperor for this small moment of triumph. But it was far from over yet, with the Valkyrie gunship approaching and the inquisitorial shock troopers swiftly dealing with the remaining heretics. Commissar Graves, the troopers, and I rallied together. The Valkyrie made quick work of the enemy forces with its powerful weapons, punching through their vehicles and scattering their troops. The door gunners and rocket pods took care of anyone attempting to flee, while hot-shot lasguns from the inquisitorial shock troopers shredded holes in the enemy's body armor. The heretic rebels were no match for the coordinated assault and were swiftly routed. As the Valkyrie hovered overhead, Inquisitorial shock troopers rappelled down and engaged the enemy. The Inquisitor guided his men in extracting the Lord Governor. Commissar Graves and I continued to repel the remaining heretics, preparing to move forward. However, our progress was abruptly halted by a horrifying sight. 2 large missiles shrieked out of the wreckage, striking the Valkyrie. One glanced off its side while the other hit it directly, causing the gunship to spin out of control. It attempted to pull away, but a final rocket slammed into it, reducing it to debris that rained down around us. The impact sent us to the ground, surrounded by a chaotic storm of smoke, ash, and dust. After a momentary blackout, I regained consciousness to see Commissar Graves already on his feet. I gathered my senses and strength and rose as well. I quickly assessed the situation and located the source of the attack. An Enforcer Rhino, repainted with heretical symbols, and a large black handprint on the front. The vehicle had deployed a squad of heretics, some of whom were larger and more monstrous in appearance. Among them was their leader, a man clad in dark red armor adorned with worn black handprints. His vicious blade was pointed menacingly at Commissar Graves. We were faced with a dire challenge. The heretics' unexpected strike had taken down the Valkyrie, leaving us exposed and outnumbered. The Enforcer Rhino's occupants appeared fanatical and ready for a fight. The battlefield was shrouded in tension as we prepared to confront this new threat, determined to protect the Lord Governor and ourselves from the blood-crazed heretics, and to match this formidable enemy. I stared at the enemy leader, Korgoth the Conqueror, assessing his fierce appearance covered in heretical tattoos. Commissar Graves stood his ground, his gaze unwavering. I positioned myself beside the Commissar, aiming my plasma pistol at Korgoth. Graves gestured for me to lower my weapon, explaining that the containment seal on the pistol was damaged. Firing might cause the weapons to detonate. To top it off, Korgoth might be shielded by technology or dark warp magic. He informed me that he had used up all his ammunition, now wielding a worn-down chainsword and his power sword. The 2 monstrous beastmen flanked Korgoth, surrounded by some of his troopers who snickered and growled menacingly. The unease I felt grew stronger as I gazed upon Korgoth. Something about him emanated a dark and foreboding energy. Graves pointed his power sword at Korgoth and addressed him, identifying him as the leader of the Black Hand. Graves spoke first. "Korgoth, the Conqueror, leader of the Black Hand. You finally come out of hiding to take the Governor's head, I imagine?" Korgoth, acknowledging his intent to take the Governor's head, spoke malice, sticking to every word he uttered. "Dark gods have demanded this planet, and I will give it to them for their blessings and their boons." He keep replied, and then his tone grew eager with a foul joy. "But my men are capable of handling that worm. The blood god knows you, Captain Lord Commissar Fillmore Graves. You have slain some of his champions of his legions. Your skull is worthy of being taken and placed upon his throne, and it shall be my honor to do so." He boasted, challenging the Commissar. A hellish grin split his face. Korgoth drew his jagged and sharpened power sword, the edges of which seemed capable of slicing through flesh and bone with ease. He proclaimed that the dark gods demanded the planet, and he would deliver it to them for their blessings. He taunted Graves, claiming that his men were capable of dealing with the Governor, while he sought to claim the Commissar's skull for the blood god's throne. Commissar Graves met Korgoth's gaze with fiery zeal and malice, a deep-seated hatred apparent in his eyes. Yet, even more chilling was the unsettling calmness with which he faced the enemy. He turned to me, his tone leaving no room for questions. "Lieutenant, you are skilled, but no use here. Fall back and go to the Governor, and the Inquisitor get them out of here." Ordering me to fall back to protect them, to complete the mission. Backing away from a fight against an enemy commander felt wrong, but I understood the Commissar's strategy. Graves was the only one skilled enough to hold off Korgoth and buy us time to escape. The Commissar's intentions were clear: to ensure our survival. Korgoth ordered his 2 beastmen to bring him the Governor's skull while leaving the Commissar to him. The beastmen charged forward with ferocity, and Graves gave me a forceful push, urging me to go. With resolve, I sprinted towards the Governor and the Inquisitor. "As you stand before me, Graves, Know that your blade will find no sanctuary in my flesh. It is not your fate to best me, but to bear witness to your own demise. The shadows of the warp coil around us, and the gods of chaos whisper sweet promises of your doom. You are but a puppet of the Imperium, while I am the instrument of the true masters. Prepare to taste the bitterness of defeat, for your defiance only fuels the fire that consumes this world. He boosted the feeling battle lust radiating off of him. Graves steeled himself for the fight of his life, and maybe if the Emperor wills it his final fight, your delusions of grandeur are nothing but the echoes of a madman's raving. I am the shield of the Imperium, unyielding against the darkness that festers within weak souls like yours. Your blasphemous words hold no power over me, for I stand firm in the Emperor's light. As for your boasts of victory, they will crumble like the false idols you worship. Today the Emperor's justice shall be served, and your reign of heresy shall meet its end. The Commissar replied, his bionics hissing again to life as he took up a battle stance with both blades, moving as fast as I could in the low visibility. I glanced back once to witness the Commissar and Korgoth locking blades in intense combat. I dodged back and struck at the changing beastmen. Power sword sliced through the leg of one of the beastmen, causing it to collapse. The chainsword's impact on the other beastman seemed ineffective as it continued its relentless charge. My feet pounded against the ground as I sprinted onward, my rebreather's rhythmic sounds echoing in my ears. The relentless pursuit of the beastmen urged me to push harder, my sole focus on reaching the Governor and the Inquisitor to ensure their safety. As I rushed forward, the cityscape around me seemed to shift, more heretic forces materializing out of thin air. The crackling of last fire and the reverberations of bolter rounds once again filled the air, a cacophony of chaos and violence. Amidst this maelstrom of battle, a new sound pierced through the chaos, a sound like rolling thunder. It was a harbinger of hope, a reinforcement that we so desperately needed. Death Rider cavalry, mounted on their Kriegsteeds, charged into the fray with a ferocity that sent shockwaves through the enemy ranks. The riders skewered heretics with their long spears, the impact of their charge scattering the opposition, creating openings in their lines. However, my attention was still fixed on my mission, protecting the Governor and the Inquisitor. My path was suddenly blocked by another squad of heretics, forcing me to ready my blade for combat. Before they could unleash their firepower, though, the deafening sounds of hooves resonated in the air. The Krieg Death Riders had arrived, their swift charge smashing into the heretics with unrelenting force. Their actions bought me a brief respite, and I seized the opportunity to surge forward once more. My eyes darted briefly to the pursuing beastmen, witnessing their monstrous strength as one of them casually tossed a rider and his horse aside with a bone-chilling roar. With no means to halt their advance, I knew I had to continue moving, every step taking me closer to the Inquisitor and the Governor, and further away from the imminent clash between Commissar Graves and Korgoth the Conqueror. My determination burned brightly, fueled by the memory of the Commissar's sacrifice and the need to fulfill my duty to the Emperor. Amid the chaotic battleground, I finally reached the end of the street where the barricades had been set up. There, I witnessed a fierce battle unfolding, led by the unwavering figure of Inquisitor Vensk. The stormtroopers had the Governor sheltered behind a makeshift barricade in an alley, fending off an onslaught from the heretic forces. The air was filled with the resounding reports of hot-shot lace guns as they spat defiance against the encroaching heretics. The Inquisitor himself stood at the forefront, a picture of calm and calculated wrath. With each swing of his force axe and each blast from his Inferno pistol, he turned his opponents to nothing more than ash and cinders. As the echoes of battle reverberated in my ears, I called out to the Inquisitor, alerting him to the approaching beastmen that I had been fleeing. Vaulting over the barricade, I positioned myself beside him, my power sword at the ready. The Inquisitor's psychic aura surrounded us, a frigid wind that seemed to freeze time itself. Covered in iridescent flames, he harnessed his psychic powers to hold the rampaging beastmen in place, buying us a moment to prepare for the clash. The beastman roared and snarled, its massive power maul raised high, ready to crush us beneath its weight. The creature's advance suddenly halted, caught in the icy grip of the Inquisitor's psychic might. He approached the creature, his eyes burning with determination as he unleashed his psychic force against the creature's strength. The moment his stasis field dissipated, the creature lunged forward, its maul striking down towards us. But in that crucial instant, the Inquisitor's power once again intervened. With a swift, precise movement, his force axe sliced through the air, severing the beast's hand at the wrist. The beastman's roars turned to a gurgled cry of agony, its head vanishing in a burst of psychic energy as the Inquisitor's psychic flames consumed it. As the battle raged on, the Inquisitor's mastery over both psychic abilities and weaponry was awe-inspiring. The combined forces of his power and the shock troopers under his command proved to be a formidable defense against the heretical onslaught. With each of his actions, Inquisitor Vensk exuded a sense of unwavering resolve, a steadfast guardian of the Emperor's light in the midst of darkness. Shaken by the incredible display of power by Inquisitor Vensk, the heretic troopers faltered, retreating momentarily in the face of his overwhelming psychic might. However, this respite was short-lived, as the sound of shotguns echoed through the air, accompanied by a barking aggression. A squad of Death Corp engineers had arrived on the scene, armed with close-quarter power tools, gas bombs, and shotguns. Their fierce onslaught forced the heretic forces to scatter further away from our position, creating a crucial breathing space. Quickly rallying the engineers to our side, I watched as they assisted the governor to his feet, his astonishment evident in his speechless expression. Inquisitor Vensk's gaze turned towards me. Though his countenance was icy and controlled, I sensed the underlying tension. He needed a report on what had transpired with our commissar, Captain Lord Commissar Philomore Graves. Lord Inquisitor, I began. The enemy leader unleashed a second wave of heretics. Captain Lord Commissar Philomore Graves stayed behind to engage their leader in combat, buying us precious time. I could feel a cold chill creep over me as I recounted the events, a mixture of concern and rage towards the enemy. The Inquisitor's demeanor, as always, revealed little, but I sensed an understanding of the dire situation. I did not dare question his choices, for his focus was unyielding on the task at hand. As the engineers gathered around us, the troopers busied themselves with reloading their weapons, preparing for the next round of battle. Their faces reflected both determination and uncertainty, a realization that this might be a fight they would not survive. It was then that a memory from the briefing surfaced in my mind. Our main route had been swept earlier due to an intersection with the abandoned metro tunnels. Without hesitation, I took the data slide from one of the engineers and verified our position. My Lord Inquisitor, I spoke up. We are currently positioned above a metro point of the old abandoned tunnels. There's a surface entrance nearby that we can blast open. By following the tunnels, we can reach an old train yard and eventually make our way to the Imperial Garden motor pool station. From there, we can regroup and find an alternate route back to the governor's grounds. In response, the Inquisitor nodded in acknowledgement and then turned his attention towards the engineers, issuing commands to set their plan in motion. Our path was set, and as the engineers worked diligently, I couldn't shake the feeling that our escape route through the underground tunnels might be our only chance at survival. The engineers swiftly divided into two teams, each with their distinct tasks. One team focused on setting up the demo charge to blast open the entrance to the underground tunnels, while the other joined forces with the inquisitorial shock troopers to confront the advancing wave of heretics, aiming to halt their onslaught. Taking advantage of the temporary lull in the battle, I approached a fallen inquisitorial trooper, retrieving a hotshot pistol from the holster and gathering extra power packs. It was a makeshift solution until I could restore my plasma pistol with the help of a tech priest. Activating the pistol, I ensured its readiness and holstered it on my hip, a reliable tool for the upcoming challenges. My attention shifted to the governor, who was being assisted by two other inquisitorial shock troopers. His recognition of me seemed to provide him some semblance of comfort, familiar with my uniform and presence as an Astra Militarum officer. Amidst his babbling, a mixture of gratitude, horror, and prayers to the Emperor, I helped him to his feet, assuring him that our priority was to get him to safety. As he heard the word safety, He seemed to comply without resistance, and I guided him to our next cover, waiting for the detonation that would open our escape route. The heretic forces intensified their assault, the cacophony of gunfire filling the air once again, with the cracks and snaps of autoguns and lasbolts. Swiftly, Inquisitor Vensk summoned a protective barrier around the governor, shielding him from the enemy's attacks. Seizing the opportunity, I drew my hotshot pistol and fired quick, accurate shots, taking down one heretic trooper with a direct hit to the head and injuring another. Just as the tension reached its peak, a thunderous explosion shook the ground as the demo charge detonated. The Vox crackled with the message that we now had a usable entrance to the underground tunnels. Without hesitation, the inquisitorial troopers and I deployed smoke grenades and gas bombs, obscuring our retreat as we prepared to descend. The engineers were already at work, rigging ropes to enable the governor and his protectors to rappel down into the tunnels. As the governor was guided down, I followed closely, ensuring our escape was as swift and coordinated as possible. The remaining engineers, knowing the heretics would pursue us relentlessly, chose to remain behind, their mission clear: to collapse the entrance behind us, provide a crucial delay that would increase our chances of getting away from the pursuing enemy forces. The depths of the abandoned metro tunnels, darkness enveloped us, and the feeble light of our stab lights struggled to penetrate the misty and stagnant air. Our night lenses strained to provide some clarity, but the gloom was pervasive. Due to the potential risk of toxins, the governor and the Inquisitor were equipped with rebreathers, and the remaining engineers and inquisitorial troopers moved ahead, leading the way through the labyrinthine passages. Time seemed to stretch as hours passed, our group navigating the complex maze of tunnels in search of the old rail yard and the reinforcements we desperately needed. Eventually, we stumbled upon a tunnel containing an old abandoned metro train. An unsettling atmosphere hung around the area. It seemed unusual, out of place. Despite the absence of exits to the surface, we cautiously explored the nearby terminal, hoping to decipher our location and rest momentarily. We understood that any threat, including potential confrontations with denizens of the Underhive, could arise at any moment, but safeguarding the governor remained our paramount concern. As we gathered around the holodrome in the terminal, it unexpectedly activated, projecting an image of a man. He introduced himself as Cain, High Magos of the Brotherhood, and Speaker to the Angels of the Stars. Clad in simple robes and with a misshapen head, he held a staff. Our attention was drawn to him as he surveyed us with an almost theatrical air, evaluating his audience as if planning his next performance. Cain's unsettlingly friendly tone belied the ominous message he conveyed. "Hello, my wayward children. I am Cain, High Magos of the Brotherhood, and Speaker to the Angels of the Stars." His voice echoed through the tunnel, carrying an air of both authority and allure. Despite his holographic form, Cain seemed to lock eyes with each of us individually, his gaze unsettlingly penetrating. He exuded an uncanny charm, his presence demanding our attention and instilling a sense of both familiarity and unease. As he addressed the governor, his words held a deceptive camaraderie. He insinuated that the people of the planet were weary of their oppression, presenting himself as a savior of sorts, all while weaving a sinister undercurrent beneath his friendly tone. His next words were a calculated manipulation, offering redemption to all, including the Inquisitor, by denouncing their allegiances to the Emperor and embracing the true Emperor he promised would come to reclaim the planet. Caught in his rhetoric, I felt an inexplicable connection to Cain, a pull that seemed to originate from a forgotten corner of my memory. It was as if he had tapped into something deeply personal, an emotion that left me conflicted and questioning. Suddenly, the Inquisitor erupted into action, surrounding himself with an icy aura that manifested as a temperature drop within the terminal. As the cold intensified, so did the frosty chill within the air, creating a scene of otherworldly confrontation. The Inquisitor's psychic might was palpable, his intent clear as he sought to pierce through Cain's veil of manipulation and control. Amidst the clash of psychic forces, a wave of power radiated from the Inquisitor, sweeping through the room and knocking me off my feet. The room blurred momentarily, and when my vision cleared, I saw Kane's holographic projection flicker and distort, as if struggling to maintain its form. But even as the Inquisitor's psychic onslaught seemed to gain the upper hand, I couldn't help but feel a residual tug in my mind, a whisper of reassurance that Kane's words held a semblance of truth. However, the battle of minds continued, the two psychic forces colliding like crashing waves in a storm. My head throbbed, and I shivered uncontrollably as the temperature plummeted further, the terminal around us becoming a battleground of unseen forces. Then, abruptly, it all stopped. The icy wind ceased, and the Inquisitor knelt on one knee, his energy spent from the mental conflict. As my vision cleared, I realized the Governor was in a state of panic, approached by an inquisitorial trooper who now raised his weapon against him. An aura of dread and confusion hung heavy in the air, the tendrils of Kane's influence still lingering. Reacting instinctively, I drew my hotshot pistol and eliminated the troopers threatening the Governor, the echoes of gunfire cutting through the eerie silence. A moment of solemn prayer followed a plea for the Emperor's protection and guidance in a moment of horror. From the remnants of the holographic projection, Kane's voice emerged once more. It seems our time has come to an end in this moment, but fear not, for I leave a great gift that will show you enlighten. I hope to see you all at my next sermon, much more willing participants this time. His parting words resonating with an unsettling certainty. He acknowledged the Inquisitor's triumph in the psychic struggle, conceding that their paths would cross again. He spoke of his companions, ominous figures who had already arrived, ready to further the Brotherhood's sinister cause. As Kane's hologram faded, we were left with the aftermath of a psychic battle that had far-reaching implications. The Inquisitor rose slowly, his strength returning. We locked eyes, our shared experience creating an unspoken bond of understanding and readiness for whatever lay ahead. In that moment of dire confrontation, horror reigned supreme. The pure-strain gene stealers emerged from the shadows, their unnaturally swift movements and razor-sharp claws proving deadly. The Inquisitorial troopers fought valiantly, but the gene stealers' onslaught was relentless, claiming lives in an instant. The scene was one of frenzied combat, shrieks of pain mixing with the roar of gunfire, and the sickening sound of blades tearing through flesh. I engaged one of the gene stealers, my power sword clashing against its slashing limbs. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I narrowly blocked its attacks, each strike a reminder of the perilous situation we faced. With a quick and calculated strike, I severed one of its limbs. A psychic blast from the Inquisitor finished the creature off. Despite our efforts, the battle was a desperate struggle for survival. We clung to a sense of unity, relying on each other to hold the line and keep the Governor safe. As the pack of gene stealers closed in, the engineers unleashed gas bombs and shotgun blasts, their valiant efforts providing crucial moments of respite. Our path seemed sealed by a blast door, trapping us in a confined space with the relentless gene stealers on the other side. Desperation filled the air as I attempted to vox for assistance, the static-filled response leaving us isolated and alone. With no other option, we readied ourselves for the impending clash, fully aware that this battle could very well be our last. With grim determination, we unleashed a barrage of gunfire, our weapons roaring in unison, as we tried to hold back the encroaching gene stealers. The Inquisitor Vensk managed to summon a wall of warp fire, providing a temporary barrier that held the creatures at bay, buying us precious seconds to regroup. In the midst of the chaos, a fellow trooper met a gruesome end, his head severed by the relentless onslaught of the gene stealers. Every swing of their claws was a reminder of the unforgiving nature of our adversaries. It was a fight to the death, a battle for survival against a foe that seemed all but unstoppable. But then, a moment of opportunity arose. With quick precision, I fired a shot that struck one of the gene stealers directly in the eye, a brief pause in its advance as it succumbed to its wound. Seizing the moment, I closed the distance and delivered a decisive blow, severing its head from its body. Yet, just as our determination seemed to shift the tide, a shadow fell over the battlefield, a looming presence that dwarfed even the fearsome gene stealers. The Patriarch had arrived, its massive form casting an aura of dread that hung heavy in the air. The sheer size of the creature was enough to send a shiver down my spine. A chilling reminder that the horrors we faced were not limited to the gene stealers alone. As the Patriarch advanced, our situation grew even more dire. The odds were stacked against us, and our survival seemed increasingly unlikely. In the face of overwhelming darkness, the light of our resolve burned bright. We were united in purpose, standing shoulder to shoulder against the encroaching threat, ready to face whatever came our way with unwavering courage. In the midst of the dire situation, just as the Patriarch bore down upon us, a sudden burst of static pierced through the chaos, a voice cutting through the tumultuous noise. Its message was clear and urgent. "Get down!" Reacting instinctively, I seized the Inquisitor and the Governor and hurled ourselves to the ground with all the strength I could muster. In the nick of time, the blast door was blown open by an immense force, revealing a black armored tank crashing through the entrance. The resounding boom of the Demolisher cannon shook the tunnel, its deadly payload of destruction unleashed upon the enemy. The bright lances of the last cannon, the thunderous hail of heavy bolter rounds created a storm of devastation and pushed back the encroaching gene stealers. As the tank came into view, I recognized it immediately. The old man's teeth. The battle tank of Captain Lord Commissar Phillimore Graves. Though battered and missing parts of his coat, he stood on top of the war machine in unyielding determination as he wielded his power sword, driving the Xenos threat back into the darkness from whence they emerged. Through the breach, a hellhound and a convoy of Chimera transports roared into the scene. The sound of revving engines and the acrid scent of Prometheus filled the air as Death Corps troopers disembarked from the transports, giving chase to the retreating gene stealers. It was a sight to behold. The Imperium's relentless response to the darkness that sought to engulf us. With the Inquisitor and me guiding him, the Lord Governor was hurriedly moved to one of the waiting transports, the clamor of battle still ringing in our ears. The rapid arrival of reinforcements had turned the tide, demonstrating the unwavering strength and resilience of the Imperium against even the most formidable foes. As we boarded the transport and the hatch closed behind us, a sense of relief washed over me. Though battered and shaken, we had survived this ordeal. The light of the Emperor's protection had shone upon us once more. As the transport's engines roared to life, the roar of battle gradually faded into the distance. The darkness of the underground tunnels gave way to the dim light of the transport's interior, casting long shadows on our weary faces. The Governor, still in shock from the harrowing events he had witnessed, was helped into a seat. I took a moment to catch my breath. Inquisitor Vensk stood resolute, his fiery aura subsiding as he leaned against a nearby support beam, his gaze fixed on the tunnel entrance. The Inquisitor, still recovering from his psychic exertion, took a moment to catch his breath before addressing the gathered group. He turned on his vox so all troops nearby could hear. In the face of darkness, we stood united, and the Emperor's light shone upon us, Inquisitor Vensk declared, his voice resonating with a blend of weariness and unyielding resolve. Today, we have witnessed the vile machinations of the Brotherhood and its malevolent leader, Cain, along with the fearsome power of the Black Hand with their warlord Korgoth. They seek to sow chaos and deceit, but we will stand firm, unwavering in our loyalty to the Emperor and his Imperium. The Inquisitor voice to that may hear. "Lieutenant," the Inquisitor called out, his voice carrying the weight of the day's events. "You've demonstrated exceptional courage and resourcefulness in the face of chaos. Your quick thinking and unwavering dedication to protecting the Governor and our mission have not gone unnoticed." I met his gaze, feeling a mixture of pride and humility, feelings I'm unfamiliar with. "Thank you, Inquisitor. It was our duty, and I couldn't have done it without the support and sacrifice of my comrades and your guidance." Inquisitor Vensk nodded, his expression grave. "Indeed, the Emperor's light shines through all of us, even in the darkest of times. But let us not forget the sacrifice of the brave men who held the line against our enemies, allowing us to regroup and overcome the odds." I nodded in agreement, my thoughts briefly turning to the Commissar's fierce determination and his final stand against the enemy. He embodied the spirit of the Imperium, Commissar reminded me a lot of the tales of Colonel Jordan. He survived, may the Emperor protect. In the aftermath of the intense battle, a sense of uneasy calm settled over the governor's palace. Once pristine halls bore the scars of conflict, shattered windows and scorch marks serving as reminders of the chaos that had unfolded. Surviving troopers, battle-worn and weary, moved with a sense of purpose as they reinforced the palace's defenses, tended to the wounded. I stood with my fellow troopers, watching as Lord Commissar Graves emerged from his tank, his imposing figure a testament to his resilience. The scars of battle marred his features, his eyes burned with a fierce determination that could not be extinguished. As he joined our ranks, his presence alone seemed to infuse the air with renewed resolve. "Good to see you back, Commissar," I said, my voice a mixture of odd relief and full respect. He grunted in response, his gaze sweeping over the courtyard where troopers diligently patrolled. "It took more than those heretics to bring me down, Lieutenant. The Emperor watches over his own." I would later find out that in Graves' battle with the enemy leader, he did manage to cut off his lower jaw. Before the battle finished, our armored tanks rallied and led a counterattack. The warlord fell back for now, not knowing when he will strike again. As we exchanged nods, the Inquisitor's return was met with a flurry of activity. Inquisitor Vensk's discussions with the Grandmaster hinted at the gravity of the situation. It was clear that the fate of Thanatos hung in the balance. Plans were made, strategies devised, and alliances forged, all with the singular goal of ensuring the survival of the planet and the continued within the Governor's palace. We took on the dual role of guardians and strategists. The public saw us as a reassuring presence, a reminder that the forces of the Imperium stood strong. Little did they know the depth of preparation taking place behind closed doors. Maps were spread out, communication channels established, and troopers underwent intensive training, honing their skills for the battles yet to come. In the midst of the preparations, I often found myself glancing at a hololith image of Captain Lord Commissar Phillimore Graves the Lord Governor had installed. Graves, what made a hero to Hive and symbolize of duty, to the enemy fear, his resolute expression serving as a beacon of inspiration. His sacrifice had ignited a fire within us all, a determination to honor his deeds by defending Thanatos with unwavering resolve. As the days turned into weeks, the tension in the air was palpable, the sense of anticipation building to a crescendo. The storm of battle loomed on the horizon, and we knew that the final confrontation with the Thanatos, Liberation Army, and their dark designs was imminent. And so, with each passing moment, we stood united, our hearts aflame with loyalty to the Emperor and our determination unwavering. The fight for Thanatos was far from over, and together we would face whatever darkness emerged, drawing strength from the sacrifices made and the unbreakable bonds that forged us into a formidable force for the Imperium's survival. Report from 949th Unforgiven Krieg Assault Regiment, Marshal Lieutenant Jagger. This has been Operation Ironclad Vigilance, Doom of Thanatos series, written by Cosmic Drew. Made in support of the Mordian Glory channel and community. Thank you for listening.